So let's begin with a little prayers. Luis may have found it by now, but maybe you
No, I
know.
haven't. Doris, help. They have a link. Is it possible?
Anna, can you bring those up? You probably have them more handy than I do.
Sangye chodang soki chognam la jangju badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chunyen gipe sognam ki drola penche sangye drupasho. So I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly through the merits, through the collections I create, through listening to the Dharma in this class today. May I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. Sangye churang suki chognam la jangchu badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi chunyen gipe sognam ki rola penche sangye Drupasho. So as I've mentioned before, for the Tibetans, this is honorific language, so it already puts them in a mind stream. When you use, when you're talking about Sangye and Chu and Soki Chognamla and so forth, Jiangsu Bardu, already puts them out of the ordinary conventional language that you're usually using. Then offering a mandala, by offering this ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents of sun and moon, visualized as a Buddha realm, may migrators, all migrators, enjoy such a pure realm. O holy and perfect pure lamas, please bless us from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, spontaneously, as we talked about before, without the Buddhas having to think about it. Please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma. So the vast meaning the conventional truths and the interpretable truths of the Four Noble Truths and so forth, and the profound Dharma meaning the teachings on emptiness, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be subdued. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Okay, having done that, let's sit for a few minutes in meditation, and I'll try to be less verbose as uh, Rachel had suggested last night. It's hard for her to concentrate when I'm blathering on. Okay, so I'll say as my brother's voicemail prompt used to say, you know what to do. Okay, so let's begin with some breathing meditation. You know what to do. If you've had a little success in calming your mind, bring your mind now to the more subtle object of your mental consciousness, and I'll suffice, let it suffice by saying, you try to recognize the consciousness through its contents and then center on that non-obstructive nature, its clear light nature. Understanding the meaning of this non-obstructive nature of the consciousness, try to feel some joy in recognizing that we can become better. We can get rid of our faults and develop qualities that we don't have yet, as yet. We can perceive this because of this auspicious moment. Which is decaying with every second. We're getting closer to the moment of death. Thinking to use this as the Buddha prescribed to achieve nirvana or enlightenment. Choosing between them, that enlightenment as a goal is much more intelligent, much more wise. To achieve enlightenment, we need to develop empathy for sentient beings, mother sentient beings. In the vast tapestry of time, we've all been interconnected with them in the past, some who are friends or enemies right now in the present, certainly in the future. feeling a compassion for them, developing a compassion for them based on that empathy. Wishing authentically that they be free of that suffering. That suffering meaning the sufferings of samsara. Not only free of that, but wishing them to be imbued with the qualities of enlightenment. Think that to do so, I myself must become a Buddha, enlightened. For their sake. That's the thought of bodhicitta. Once having developed the wish to achieve enlightenment, if we want to engage in that, we have to accumulate the two collections of merit and wisdom by practicing the Bodhisattva perfections. Distillation of which is found in our text, Gompa Rabsel, from the Buddha's teachings through Nagarjuna, through Buddhapalita and Chandrakirti. Thinking how rare it is to have the opportunity to dive in depth in the very modes of reasoning, of analysis that these great bodhisattvas, Buddhas, have demonstrated to us before, how they achieved their states. So rare in the world. Think I'm going to participate in the class today for that purpose of achieving enlightenment. Flawless method to lead sentient beings all the way into that state. Knowing that my actions, virtuous actions of listening and contemplating and meditating, will create virtuous karma, collection of merit, and that my deepening understanding of emptiness will get me closer to accumulating the collection of wisdom, direct realization of emptiness. Think I'm going to participate in order to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all mother sentient beings. Okay, thank you. Suvash is calm. iPhone is here. I'm not sure who iPhone is. So, how is everyone? How is that meditation, Rachel? Is that a little bit better?
Thanks for humoring me, Venerable George. I find it.
It sounded strange. I think the Wi-Fi sounded like some slowing down of your. So, okay,
Hi, Board.
yeah. So, anyone have any thoughts, any questions, any observations that you'd like to begin with before we start? How are we doing? Mikhail sent his apologies. He had some other obligations. He'll catch up. Maybe we'll see him on Monday. He did mention something that I thought was we had mentioned several times in class. He said the geshe at I think at Instituto Lama Khapa or at Nalanda. Which program is he taking? Is it through Nalanda or
And yeah, Nalanda.
Nalanda? He said the geshe had said something that surprised him that to meet Tantra is even rarer than meeting the Buddhas, and that only it said generally it says in the sutras that only three Buddhas of this cosmic age, of this world system, will teach Tantra. One of which was the first Buddha, who we way in historical past. The second was the fourth Buddha, Shakyamuni, who was our, in our time realm. And the next, for sure, will be the last Buddha. And there is indication that perhaps the 11th Buddha, who might be a manifestation of Lama Tsongkhapa, will also teach Tantra. But of those 1,000 Buddhas, at most 4 will teach Tantra. So had you heard that before? I thought we had mentioned that in class, but maybe he was thinking of something else when that was mentioned. So, yeah. So, yeah. So we're going to begin here today in Jimpa's translation in the written text, printed text. It's page 375, I believe. And in the FPMT translation by Venerable Joan Nysel, what is Venerable Joan's Tibetan name? Does anyone remember? I always just think of her as Venerable people. Many people don't know what my Tibetan name is. It's easier to say Venerable George or Monk George or something. Anyway, in the FPMT translation, page 213, and this is starting with a paragraph that reads that this sequential presentation of dependent origination shows how, when there is ignorance, the condition for distortion, consciousness comes to exist. And how, when there is no ignorance, consciousness will come to cease, is stated through presenting the reverse order of dependent origination. Having thus presented, the sutra makes extensive statements such as the following, and then there's a quotation from the Dashabhumika, right? I think, yeah. So just before that, there is one, is it one sentence? Yeah. One very long sentence and then a short thing. It says, just before that, what I just read, it says, so just like floating hairs being perceived by someone with an eye disorder. Remember when you have this particular kind of eye disorder of seeing floaters. I think we all have some kind of floaters, but sometimes it's much worse. Just like the floating airs that are perceived by that, we should understand that an inherently real consciousness, he says, an intrinsically real consciousness, such as the Chittamatrans believe, right? That consciousness is inherently existent. We should understand that that is something that exists when the conditions are present for such distortion. Does that inherently I take issue with his grammar there. Does that inherently exist in consciousness exist when there is a condition for distortion? I think what he says, it seems to exist by that. We'll read Venerable Jones' translation of that in a second. And does not exist when such condition for distortion are absent. This then is the understanding. Richard, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I agree with you that seems to exist would make more sense.
So, Venerable Jones says on page 213, let me see, I've tried to put it in there. Once you think, where is 213? I'll try to say, once you think this is because consciousness is like the falling hair and so forth. That means an inherently existent consciousness is like falling hair and so forth, observed by those with eye floaters, with this, this eye ailment, which exists when the condition for error exists. Whereas because it is like that, it does not exist when the condition for error does not exist. So that means, the example we gave before, the person with floaters, demanding to the waiter or the cook, there's floating hairs, there's hairs, there's snakes in my soup here. And so it exists for that person with the cause of error, for the floaters, but it does not exist for anyone else who doesn't have that cause of error. That's basically what's being said there. Okay. So then the paragraph that we just read, let's see. Venerable Jones says that the sequential, so Jimpa says, so this is the understanding, she said here. Where is this in Venerable Jones' translation? Does anyone see? If you have them.
It's at the bottom of 213, or middle bottom, when
Right.
the condition for error exists.
Thank you, Rach. I can say Rach, short for Rachel. When the condition for error, which is ignorance, exists, consciousness exists. That quotation is indicated by the forward order of dependent relation, dependent, what do you say, dependent arising. Whereas when ignorance does not exist, consciousness is averted. That means that link will not be developed, is indicated by the reverse order. Okay, so that's what she's saying there. So then there's this quotation, and in the, maybe on Monday we can talk about the whole quote from the Dashabhumika. So in the Tenbhumi Sutra, there's a very long discussion about dependent arising. You can find also extensive discussion of dependent arising also in the Rice Seedling Sutra, right, Paul? Is that one of the ones that's also known? And even in the sutra of, what do we call it? The Satipatthana Sutra, the sutra analyzing or, discussing about developing abiding and so forth through watching the breathing, a close placement of mindfulness on on the various things. So there are various sources. So the Buddha talked about dependent arising, the 12 links in many different places. So here, this is the quote, Lama Tsongkhapa has taken only one portion of what Chandrakirti has said here. He says, thus volition possesses faults of multiple ill consequences. What is volition? Anyone? Richard, do you know what volition?
Isn't it karma, karmic? Forgetting the second word, but karma basically.
Right. Karmic formations is one way of translating it. I think in general it's just samskaras, not samsara. There's a K in there, samskaras. That's one of those tough words to translate. So it is the second link. So thus volition or karmic formations possesses faults of multiple ill consequences. So there's, if you create karma due to ignorance, there's a lot of bad things that will befall you. And when it is discerned with discriminative awareness, as devoid of essence, as unborn and unceasing. So Thupten Jinpa's note there, 661, says, Chandrakirti's commentary cites extensively from the 10 grounds, this Dashabhumika Sutra, the 10 grounds presentation of the causal dynamics of the 12 links of dependent origination, both in terms of the sequential order. Sequential order means the forward order going from ignorance for the first link to the 12th links, and of the reverse order of cessation. In order to cease rebirth, you have to cease aging and death in order to, so going back through them like that. So that's his note 61 there. So on Monday we can go through some of those long quotations from the Dashabhumika. So then Lama Tsongkhapa says in Jinpa's translation, so what sane person would, after seeing these statements in this sutra, talking about dependent arising and so forth, what kind of person who's got their faculties, who's sane, would conceive of consciousness as substantially existent? How could you say that? Well, because if things were substantially existent, which implies inherently existent, truly existent, you wouldn't be able to have any kind of dependence of one thing upon another. If things are substantially existent or inherently existent, from the Prasangika point of view, they wouldn't be able to change. So no sane person would be able to conceive of consciousness as being substantially existent. No one would. To do so would be because of the philosophical biases grasping at true existence. So then there's a couple of quotations from the 60 stanzas of reasoning, which there are various translations of here. So Thupten Jinpa's translation of Lama Tsongkhapa's quotation there says, since the Buddha has stated that the world is conditioned by ignorance, right? So what does that mean? So due to the condition of ignorance, that's the first link, everything else arises, so that the world is conditioned by ignorance. Why is it not reasonable to assert that the world is a result of conceptualization? That's how he has translated. Venerable Drone translated that the world has ignorance as its condition was taught by the complete Buddha. Sukbe Sangye. Therefore, why is it not admissible to say that the world, and she has in brackets, is the result of conception? in German says, is a result of conceptualization. Same thing. Second verse, right after that, by the way, these are, what are these? I thought I had in here what verses these are. Do you know, Paul, what verse numbers these are of the 60?
Not off the top of my head. I could figure it out.
Oh, no, verses 37 and 38. Sorry. These are verses 37 and 38 of the 60 stanzas. So the second stanza 38 says, since it comes to an end, when ignorance ceases, why does it not become clear then that it was conjured by ignorance? And he has a note there, 662. I think that is just mentioning where in the text it's found, right? Yeah, it just tells what folio 21b, line 6. So, yeah. So Geshe Zopa made some short comment here. I'll read. On August 1st in 2003 in the morning. So that was the last day of 2003 in the morning. He said, in this sentence, there is in the second stanza, there is a word kangshik. So he says, kangshik gakpa gyurwate, which is translated in the second stanzas there. He says, kangshik means the remaining of those with karma and consciousness, such as rebirth and so forth. All of them will be averted or rejected. Due to ignorance ceasing, if you were to cease ignorance, all of the rest of them will cease. By not knowing the truth, not knowing the truth of emptiness, right? Everything is imputed wrongly, and we believe that, and everything comes. How can that not be cleared away when you properly realize? So when you properly realize emptiness, it's consequential that will be averted. So Venerable Joan translated those two stanzas this way: that the world has ignorance as its condition was taught by the complete Buddha. Therefore, why is it not admissible to say this world is the result of conception? I read that before. Then the second verse, since it ceases when ignorance ceases, means all of the other consequences of ignorance of the 12 links, there won't be any continuity of that, so that there won't be any rebirth and so forth. You will achieve nirvana. Since when ignorance ceases, why does it not become clear that it was superimposed through unknowing? So she's translating superimposed from the Tibetan kuntak. So in that second verse, the third line says in Tibetan, mi she pa le. So not knowing, out of not knowing, mi she pa le, kuntak bar. So she's translated kuntak. What is the general translation of kuntak, Paul? Do you know? We don't have Mikhail to ask also.
Yeah, it's usually imputed or impute.
Yeah, so
I think that's where she's getting superimposed from. Yeah.
Jimpa is translated as conjured by ignorance. So all of this is imputed or conjured or superimposed by ignorance. So once you get rid of ignorance, all of these other things will be abated. Yeah, Sean.
I'm just wanting clarity. In the second stanza, when it says since it comes to an end, is the it referring to the world?
Yeah. So
And is that an inherently existing world? Is that what we're saying is ceasing?
that's this term kangshik that I said Geshe-la was talking about. All the rest of the 12 links, he's just saying it. Madrik gakpa gyur nani. So when ignorance is ceased, the order of words in the Tibetan is a little bit different than the translation. Kangshik gakpa gyurwate. So kangshik, that means all of the rest of the 12 links will be also ceased. So what did Venerable Jones say? She said, when ignorance ceases, why does it not become, that the world has, wait a second, which one is this? This is the second stanza, right? Since she just says, since it ceases when ignorance ceases. So Jimpa just, I think that he's taking kangshik as it, whereas kangshik,
But based on just those two stanzas, it seems like the subject they're talking about is the world and not
yeah, the world that the
12
world,
links of dependent origination.
yeah, it's talking about the world that appears to you as inherently existent. That world will cease. So
Okay. That's what I was making sure.
once you've eliminated ignorance, there's not going to be any longer the creation of karma that can throw you into another rebirth. You can still create some karma, but the 12 link in the 12 links, when we talk about the second link, karmic formations, that's talking about karma that will impel you into another rebirth, right? That's not all karma. When you eliminate ignorance, when you've realized emptiness on the path of seeing, you eliminate some of those karmic formations. You don't eliminate all of them until you reach the eighth bhumi, right? Okay, let's go a little bit further here. So Jim's translation following Lama Tsongkhapa continues. The point being made here is that if something were to exist by virtue of its own essence, that means if something were to inherently exist, it would exist as a true mode of being. That would be its actual mode of being. What does that mean? So if something is truly existent, remember when we talked from the Prasangika point of view, something is true or has a true mode of being if its mode of appearance corresponds to its mode of what? Existence. So if it exists the way it appears, if it actually exists the way that it appears. So the point being made here is that if something were to exist by virtue of its own essence, if something were to be inherently existent, it would exist, that would exist as its true mode of being. That is, when delusory perception ceases, it should become clearer and clearer rather than becoming undone altogether. So Venerable Joan translated that. This means that if something is established by way of its own entity, it would be established as the mode of abidance. So this is using the terminology that we're usually familiar with. We've talked about it before, just to use common terminology. So when we talk about the mode of abidance and the mode of appearance, if its mode of appearance is the same as its mode of abidance, the way that it actually exists, that would be true, right? So this means that if something was established by way of its own entity, it would be established as the mode of abidance, then when delusion is overcome, it should become clearer. All right, so that means if you were to eliminate ignorance, inherent existent things would become clearer and clearer, but that is not the case. It would not be the opposite. And she has a note there, 109, I think. Sure, yeah, so she's just appending that according to Thupten Jinpa's translation. Rather than being undone altogether. So does it make sense? Okay. Everyone, not everyone. Paul, what do you think? Is okay? Okay. So continuing, to make the point that the mind is primary. Remember, we talked about before when the Prasangika explanation of what the Buddha meant, maybe we could say the Buddha's explanation. It's not Prasangika. We say the Buddha was Prasangika, right? In a sense, that's his system. The Buddha said that when he used the term chittamatra, it had some ulterior motive. There was on a just an ordinary sense, it was leading people that were unable to understand deeper meanings into a state which was still usable, that, talking about that there was no duality between the outer world and consciousness, that there was not an outer world. It was all the nature of the mind. That's what they take from it and from the Buddhist teachings as a sort of a temporary refuge. But the actual meaning was when in talking about chittamatra, mere mind or only mind, is that amongst matter, between matter and mind, mind is principal or primary, and between mind and other creators, mind is principal. So the text. So there are these two stanzas from the Majjhima 89, 689 says, "It is the mind that constructed the vast diversity." Remember, diversity is one we use that word to refer to the diversity of appearances. So this is talking about conventional appearances as being truly existent. It is the mind that constructed the vast diversity of both the domain of sentient beings and their universe of as well. So that means the vessel world and its inhabitants, the sentient beings, they all are constructed, that vast diversity is constructed by the mind. The Buddha said that all beings are born of karma. And there's no karma without the mind. Okay. Venerable Joan translates that first verse as the mind itself creates the world of sentient beings and the extremely varied world of the environment. I think the extremely varied is talking about this diversity, so it applies to both, meaning beings without exception, migrating beings without exception, are said to be produced from actions, from karma. So Jinpa said, Buddha said that all beings are born of karma. Migrating beings without exception are said to be produced from actions. Having given up mind, actions also do not exist. So in the Tibetan, that the last two lines say, Droa malu lele. So out of karma, Droa malu means all beings without exception, all migrators without exception are born from karma. It is taught. Jimpa adds the word Buddha there. Tibetan just as it is taught or said. Sempang Neni, having abandoned the mind, Leikyang Yomayin, the karma also further does not exist. So that means having abandoned that mind that is grasping to things as truly existent. So the second verse, we're going to have Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary on these in a second. Second verse says, even though matter does exist, right? Some people would say the Chittamatra position is that matter does not exist. Is that the Chittamatra position, Suvash? Do you know what the Chittamatra position about matter?
Well, external reality for them doesn't exist, and therefore that implies that anything other than mind doesn't exist, which means that matter doesn't exist.
Okay, so that's Lama Tsongkhapa will show in a minute. That's the wrong interpretation of the Chittamatra, and that's one of the subtle points we talked about. We talked about a long time ago in various places. Geshe Zopa liked to explain about this. These texts about Chittamatra and Svatantrika view, there are all of these various texts. These were things that were investigated by or studied by the Geshes in their further studies to understand better, rather than just understanding the Prasangika point of view, understanding the Chittamatra point of view, understanding the Svatantrika point of view. So one of the misunderstandings is that Chittamatra doesn't accept matter. They don't accept matter which is external to the mind, but they still accept something which is matter, which is, when we talk about dependent arising, name and form, one of the links, right? Name and form arises from the condition of what?
Consciousness.
Consciousness, right?
That's right, consciousness here.
Third link. So ignorance, karmic formations, consciousness, name and form. So name and form is form, is material. That is the form part of it is material. So that arises from consciousness. So that's something that Chittamatra accepts. So they accept that. So that we'll see in a second. So even though matter does exist, it has no status of a creator like the mind. That's why we're talking about Chittamatra. The mind is the principal creator, whereas like the Vaisheshikas and some other people said that material is the creator of the world and so forth. So what is being denied is a creator other than the mind when we say Chittamatra. It is not that matter is being negated. Okay, well, you could try to say that that's from the Prasangika point of view, that it doesn't negate matter. So let's read what Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary says there. Right. So Jimpa's translation says, the domain of sentient beings. What is that? What does that mean, the domain of sentient beings? Can't get my note to come up here. Come on.
I think it's just Jikten, Venerable George. Samchengi Jikten.
Yeah. So Jimpa translates, so we could translate that as the world of sentient beings. Or so when we talk about the world, Jikten, what is that in Sanskrit? Paul, Jikten?
On a blank. I'm drawing a blank. So.
Yeah. Anyway, so the world of sentient beings, when we talk about the world, sometimes it means the physical world, sometimes it means the sentient beings themselves. So the world encompasses both. So the world of sentient beings, or Jimpa says, the domain of sentient beings. And in this particular section, there's a note 663. Jimpa says, Tsongkhapa is alluding here to the customary Abhidharma conception of the cosmos, which has the wind as its base. Remember, in the evolution of the universe, there's first comes the wind mandala at the beginning. Yeah, kind of interesting. We'll see in a second. Which is the wind as its base, and with the remaining elements, fire, water, and earth forming on top of each other. A little bit like the tantric visualizations of the different things evolving. First, you have say, Yamle Lung. Does that sound familiar? Ramle Me, and so forth and so on. With the remaining elements like fire, water, and earth forming on top of each other. And it is from the mandalas of the four elements that the entire world system comes into being. In such a cosmology, as in the Abhidharma, the heavenly realm of Akanishta is said to be the highest level of existence. Okay, so let's read that again. So the domain of sentient beings, the world of sentient beings, obtains its reality, comes into existence through karma and afflictions accumulated by individual beings themselves. So that means an individual sentient being comes about because of their own karma and afflictions, right? You could say, what is the immediate cause of them? Karma or klesha, karma or affliction? Anna, you know. What's the immediate cause?
I'm going to say the affliction, Venerable.
It would be the karma. The afflictions cause the karma.
Right.
And then because of when the karma matures, one of the results, the maturation results of karma is to be born as a sentient being in one of the six realms. So the domain of sentient beings, the world of sentient beings, comes about through karma and afflictions, karma being the immediate one, but karma being caused by afflictions, accumulated by individual beings themselves. Whereas the vast diversity of their universe, the outer world, so when you use the word again, Jikten, it's also on the tip of my tongue. What is it, Paul? Jikten? When we're talking
Sorry, it's just loka. Loka.
Loka, right? So, when we talk about loka, there's a loka of sentient beings and the loka of the outer world, the environment. So, while the vast diversity of their universe, their container, or in other words, the environment within which the sentient beings are immersed, is constructed or produced through the collective karma gathered by the mind of the sentient beings that experience that realm. This latter container world spans from the wind mandala up to the highest heavenly realm of Akanishta. Okay. Is it making sense? Have you heard this before? Venerable Shanka, have you heard this before?
Sorry, I can't work the mic. I'm on the phone and I can't work the phone, but can you repeat the question again, please?
So, have you heard this before, that the domain of sentient beings, the world of sentient beings, comes about through their own individual karma, and the diversity of the environment
Yes.
sentient beings find themselves immersed in comes about because of the collective karma of sentient beings? Is that like,
Yes.
you've heard
Yes,
that?
I have heard that before. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was easy. Okay, thank you.
So when we say in the Abhidharma Kosha, there's a famous verse, first, the world, the sentient beings in the world, the vessel world, are a result of karma. So sentient beings, the world of sentient beings comes about from their individual karma. what, how you appear in the world as a human or an animal or a preta or whatever is due to your individual karma. How you appear to others also has some kind of relationship with that. But the vessel world that we all perceive, all sentient beings perceive, is a result of the collective karma.
Mm.
So then continuing, as for the remarkable diversity of features within the world, such as the brilliance of a peacock's feathers. Yeah, so is that the right term? The brilliance of the, what does it say here? I don't have, so, Majala Sokpe, Dongbala Sokpa, not Sokpa ni, the variety of the eyes of the, and so forth, of peacocks and so forth. So when it's talking about the eyes, it's talking about the peacock feathers. They have, how the feather has what looks like an eye in the middle of it. So that's referring to that. So I'm not sure where Jimpa comes up with the brilliance of a peacock's feathers. How does Venerable Joan translate that here? Okay, so the varieties such as the eye of a peacock's feather and so forth, Jimpa must be taking that as the brilliance, are produced by the uncommon actions of just those sentient beings, right? So the particular appearances that we ourselves perceive of other sentient beings, how we see the peacock, that's another sentient being, that's not the vessel world, right? The appearance of that is also due to that individual's particular karma. So that's why many times a peacock feather is used as an illustration of karma. I have a screensaver on my phone that's just a peacock feather to remind me of karma like that. So Jimba says, as for the remarkable diversity of features such as the eye or brilliance of a peacock's feathers, these arise as products of the unique karma of these sentient beings alone. In contrast, the diversity of petal shapes. So what's different? The shapes of petals on flowers, are flowers sentient beings? Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Not in Buddhist.
So they are part of the vessel world. So in contrast, the diversity of shapes of petals and colors that exist among lotuses are produced by the collective karma of sentient beings. So the vessel world, how it appears, comes about because of our collective karma. We should extend this same understanding to other cases of diversity as well. Yeah, Paul, what do you think?
I was just the whole notion of collective karma. I mean, I know that they speak of collective karma in the Vaibhashika and Sautrantika, but I thought it was my understanding was that in the two higher tenet systems, Chittamatra and Madhyamaka, they don't speak of collective karma, but rather karma of similar types. And that's why I thought they say there's no such thing as commonly appearing subjects, because there is no shared karma, only very similar karma.
That's another issue. I think President Higa still accepts, as we'll see here. It says right here, it's talking about collective karma. Isn't that how Jimpa is translated here?
Let's see. He does say that, but he says it's semjen ki tomongi le. So common. It's karma that is held in common between sentient beings, maybe.
Right.
Semjen ki tomongi le. And I guess the question is, how do you interpret that?
So that's usually what we translate as collective karma. So it is the common karma. What is it? Semchengi sakbe tungmongi le. So karma, which is a commonly collected or collected in common sentient beings. So that's generally what we translate as collective karma. So I think that we'll see further. Your argument is of another point, but I think here in general, the Prasangika accepts this, that due to the collective karma of the sentient beings who are going to experience a particular universe, when it comes into existence, the generation of the wind mandala, fire mandala, and the water mandala, and so the earth mandala, all of these come about because of the collective karma of the sentient beings. So when I'm looking outside, I see the trees. That world is result not just of myself, like in the Chittamatra system, there's no external world, and that appearance is all the nature of your own mind. From the Prasangika point of view, or from the Madhyamaka point of view, even there is an external world, and it is a result of the collective karma of sentient beings. So that's good to point out. When we say collective karma, that means karma that has been collected in common with other sentient beings. We've all experienced other universes before. The sentient beings that inhabit this universe, due to their karma, this universe evolves in that way. How is it going? Is it making sense? We still have to.
But how are they distinguishing the bodies of sentient beings as being their unique karma versus a collective karma when those bodies are being born from the environment itself?
Yeah. Okay. Good question.
But
So
wouldn't
the fact that we appear as a human is not due to the collective karma of sentient beings. The fact that you are a human right now, where are you? There you are. The fact that you are a human right now is not due to Richard's karma or Paul's karma or Anna's karma. Rachel didn't have anything to do with you being born human. It's due to your own karma and the delusions, the ignorance that gave rise to those actions. Those actions that you created to be born as a human, as with a perfect human rebirth, very difficult to create. That particular karma to give rise, the maturation effect, is a result of many, many different karmas that you created in the past. Abstaining from negative actions, practicing morality, practicing generosity, and the other perfections. Those are the main two that are talked about: morality and generosity. Prayers that were made, aspirations, and so forth. Simply to be born as a human generally requires the practice of morality, and to be a human with some kind of ordinary existence with resources, you have to have practiced generosity in the past. They had to be linked up in some way to ripen. The maturation effect is that's your maturation effect as a human. So how you're viewed by others, so you're standing in the forest or in the valley, which is the vessel world, and you are not considered the vessel world, you are considered an inhabitant therein. So this phrase that comes often in the scriptures, the vessel world and its contents, nuchu. Nu means vessel, like a big bowl. Chu means what you put in the vessel, the yogurt, the cereal, or whatever. In this case, it means the sentient beings. So the environment and the sentient beings therein are the result of karma. So they're the result of different karma. But when we see you in the vessel world, what we see, the various features that you have, your intelligence, your strength, your the color of your face, your appearance, and so forth. All of this is due to your karma, your individual karma. Okay, so
Wait.
oh,
That
sorry.
seems opposite of what I've heard in
Yeah.
some aspects from people like Lama Zopa, where like the fact that I can't see someone as a bodhisattva or Buddha is my own karma, not their karma.
Right,
So is that not the opposite of what you just said?
right. You have to have say, for instance, when Shakyamuni Buddha appeared in the world, he appeared to those who had the karma to see the Nirmanakaya, to perceive the Nirmanakaya. He appeared as with a golden color and 32 major signs and so forth and so on, and with an aura that went out a certain number of arm lengths from his body and so forth and so on. People who didn't have that fortune to be able to see the Nirmanakaya, they didn't see that. And in fact, I think one of the Buddhist cooks, or one of the cooks in the Buddhist monasteries, when the people talked about the Buddha, he just sort of disparagingly talked about him, like he's nothing special. He didn't have the karma to see that. So yeah. So it's not as though the sentient beings inherently have an appearance to everyone. They have a general appearance. So even the cook and the disciples, they had different appearances of the Buddha. Some of them saw him as Nirmanakaya, some of them saw him as a common being, but they still saw him as a being, as a human. They didn't see him as something else. Okay, let's continue a little bit further. So it says, it is stated. Okay, where is it stated? It is stated. Oh yeah. Oh, this is a famous statement. Paul, I'd asked Paul's help the other day about it. So this is the Tibetan. It is owing to the power of sentient beings that volcanoes erupted in their time. So likewise, weapons and jewel trees are found in the hells and higher realms. So this is a little bit controversial. So Jimpa mentions here in his note, he says Chandrakirti's commentary also cites this stanza, but like Tsong here, Chandrakirti does not identify its source. So we don't have a source for this quotation. But yeah, it's very, very interesting about this. So Jimpa takes it as it is owing to the power of sentient beings that volcanoes erupted in their time. That's his translation of Re Nakbo. Re means mountain, Nakbo means black, right? So Jimpa takes Black Mountain as meaning volcanoes. It may be that some of Jimpa's teachers, so there's some oral commentary that this means volcanoes, but I don't think this means volcanoes, but we'll see in a moment. So Venerable Joan translated it this way: by the power of sentient beings' actions, due to their karma, the Black Mountains are produced at that time, or you might say at the right time. For example, weapons and precious trees in the worlds of hell sentient beings and in the world of high status. So what does that mean? By the power of sentient beings' actions, due to their karma, that means their collective karma, the environmental world such as the Black Mountains are produced. So what are the Black Mountains? I wonder, yeah, before we take a break, could you put up in the chat? Oh, it's already there. So there's a PDF for your just for fun. Talking about this. If you scroll down to the third page, you see a nice little picture there. Can you see? Do you all have that? Can you get that on your computer? What does that look like, Rachel? That picture. It's not a photo, obviously.
It looks like two fish swallowing one fish swallowing another fish's tail or something. I don't know.
Swallowing its own tail, yeah. So that's supposedly the Black Mountains. So when you talk about the evolution of the world system in the Abhidharma, you talk about the wind mandala first, and the fire mandala and the water mandala. It's kind of like the oceans. And then because of the action of the wind mandala on all of this, the solid elements begin to cohere and islands are formed and so forth. And so we talk about in the center of our when we make the mandala offering, we have in the center is Mount Meru, right? Around Mount Meru in the four directions are the four continents. Around Mount Meru, there are 7 concentric rings of golden mountains. After the 7th the ring of golden mountains around Mount Meru, so Mount Meru is well away from us. There is the salty ocean, and within the salty ocean are the 4 continents. You know, it's Jambudvipa and the other ones, right? Beyond that are so-called Black Mountains. That's kind of like the end of the what would you call it? The end of the
World system.
world system. Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Event horizon.
World system. You might say it's beyond, it's like that. You can't see beyond that. So that's represented by the Black Mountains. So some people might say that this is referring to, as you see on that page, just above the picture, it says the Chakravada, the Black Mountain. In diagrams, this is the very outermost circle that encloses the entire system. It acts as a physical wall holding the waters of the salt ocean. Okay. So
Flat
visual
Earth.
second.
Flat Earth. That's what they knew then, or
No, it's not necessarily implying flat Earth. It's just saying it's holding well, you could interpret it that way, as it's holding everything together. So there's something out there. Visually, Black Mountain is often drawn as a dark or jagged circular border contrasting with the Golden Mountains, which typically are depicted in bright yellow and gold leaf. In the diagram is side-on cross-section. You will see it as the 2 pillars at the far left and the far right. So there's another diagram that this was referring to. So I just wanted for you to have that. You can take a look at that at your leisure. So in this stanza, sorry, who's talking? Someone had comment? I know, Louise, we're going to have a break just as soon as I finish this little introduction to this.
I was going to ask during the break.
Okay, good. That's good. So one way of interpreting this is to say that the vessel world, such as that, even up to the Black Mountains, everything that's enclosed, is the result of the collective karma of sentient beings, and that the weapons that are found in the hell realms, the protectors and the guardians in the hell realms have axes and spears and different kinds of things to crush sentient beings, as well as the nice things in the god realms, such as the jewel trees and so forth, in the higher realms. All of these are the result of the karma of sentient beings. So we'll take a break there. You can debate. We were talking with Jennifer about some experience she had in a beautiful place. So yeah, the environment itself is experienced in different ways according to your individual karma. So it appears more or less the same. So a person who has an allergy to peanuts and a person who has no allergy to peanuts, they both see peanuts there. And they both taste peanuts, but their individual experience, how that ripens on your own aggregates, is due to your individual karma. The appearance of the peanuts is due to the universal, the collective karma. And say, for instance, there is collective karma for the different realms. So say the pretas, who you offer a peanut to the pretas, they may not, due to their collective karma, it won't appear to them the same as it appears to us. So there's different levels of collective karma according to the realm that you're in, right? Animals might perceive it as, generally would perceive it as food. Yeah, there might be some animals that have allergies to penis. But okay, let's leave that for the time being. Let's get back to this verse. So I did a deep dive because when we were studying many, many years ago, Madhyamakavatara itself at Institute of Lama Tsongkhapa, this verse was one that in the French translation of Madhyamakavatara by Louis de Valle, he also said that there was no attribution of this, where this quotation came from. And in Lama Tsongkhapa here, as Jimpa notes, Lama Tsongkhapa doesn't say where this quotation is from. So I tried to do a deep dive into it and sort of taking the Tibetan and putting it into one of this is especially for Venerable Shanka, you told me that you were using some Dharma AI tool. So I put it into one of the AI engines.
Oh, was I? Okay. All right.
You told me at one time you were using some Dharma AI, right?
I was considering building one. Yes.
Oh, building one. I thought you said.
Yes. I know how to do it, but I don't have time. So
There are some.
Better. So it came up with a Sanskrit of this verse and said it was from the Abhidharma Dipa. So what is the Abhidharma Dipa? The Abhidharma Dipa is a text commentary, sort of a commentary to the Abhidharma Kosha, I guess you would say, or to I guess more or less, that was composed by a scholar. So it's not part of it's not a sutra or something, sort of the lamp of the Abhidharma. And there's a commentary to that also. So the AI said it was found there, but I wasn't able to find it, even with the help of Dr. Paul. We were, checking the Abhidharma Dipa translation, the Sanskrit and the Tibetan and so forth. But at any rate, there's another way of interpreting the Black Mountains. So one way of interpreting it is that in the hell realms, because it says that these come in their time, or they come at the appropriate time, the Black Mountains, or as Jimba says, volcanoes. So one way to understand that in the hell realms, in the Black Line hell, there are where the protectors, the guardians draw black lines on your body, right? You know this hell, what I'm talking about? Have you heard of this hell before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Richard hasn't heard. So of the various hells, let's say in general, you can say they're the cold hells and the hot hells, right? Generally, the ones that we're more familiar with are the hot hells. So from Dante's Inferno, usually is talking about the hot hells. I don't know if in Dante's inferno. Inferno also means hot, right? So, you know, I don't know if they ever talk about the cold hells, but there are cold hells and hot hells. Usually the ones we talk about are the hot hells. So each of the hot hells are successively more and more grueling. And there's one hell in which due to the karma of your being born there, your karmic vision is that the guardians there, who are not external sentient beings, but the projections of your own mind, draw on your body lines like the carpenter would use when they have a string and they want to make a straight line. They pull up a chalked line and let it snap down to the wood. Do you know what I'm talking about? With some blue powder or something so they can see the line to cut on. So they mark your body with black lines and they cut you up. They at a certain point you're crushed between mountains which are formed like the heads of the animals that you've killed in the past. It might be, or the sentient beings. So it might be, cockroach heads or housefly heads or mosquito heads or deer heads if you were a hunter, or fish heads or whatever. So these mountains come together and crush you so that everything is crushed, your bones are crushed, the blood goes down, and you're revived again and again to experience this. So that sometimes in some interpretations, the Black Mountains might refer to those particular experiences, that those experiences come at the right time, depending on your own karma. So likewise, the weapons, jewels, jewel trees, the precious trees, the weapons in the hells and the precious trees in the higher realms all come about from the karma of sentient beings. So the commentary to that says, is there something I need here? Okay. That these two, the commentary in Jimpa's translation says that these two domains, meaning these two worlds, the vessel world and the inhabitants therein, that these two worlds or domains are produced by two types of karma, collective and not collective. So not collective would mean individual, right? It's not that you didn't collect in general with others. This is explained in the Chittamatra texts as well. So the Chittamatra texts say that the vessel world comes about from collective karma, right? So even according to Chittamatra, it is not the case that there is no container world, right? We say that the world, he says the domain of the universe, the domain of the world, the worldly vessel and the inhabitants therein. This is also accepted by Chittamatra as arising from karma. So it is not the case that Chittamatra, that in Chittamatra there is no container world. They say there is a container world. So that container world is material. So they do accept material, but they say that it is the nature of the mind, but they still accept matter. Okay. So the next paragraph says, thus the Buddha said that all beings are born of karma, and furthermore, there is no karma without the mind. Right? Can you create karma? You say, can a rock create karma? You might think so, but it can't. Only beings with minds, sentient beings, can create karma. So there is no karma without mind, for it is only with mind that karma is accrued, is collected. So karma too is contingent upon the mind. We're following? It's not, on certain levels, it sounds quite reasonable, but there's deeper implications to all this. Thus, through statements with phrases such as, quote, no agent, or, quote, no experience, the 10 Ground Sutra, the Dashabhumika, shows how the word only, when we talk about Chittamatra, that rejects some other agent, some other creator. So when the word agent is used here, you could translate that word as creator. So in the Dashabhumika, it says there's no creator other than the mind. And there's no creator such as atoms. There's no creator such as Brahma. There's no creator such as other things. There's no experiencer other than the mind. So this shows how the word only rejects some other agent, and the statement of how all 12 links are dependent on one factor, the mind. The sutra demonstrates how the term only indicates the mind to be primary. If you read that quickly, that sounds okay. But to say of the 12 links, mind or consciousness is the third link, right? So usually we say all of the rest depend on, sometimes we say all of them depend on ignorance, which is a kind of consciousness, right? Ignorance is consciousness, giving rise to karmic formations. Karmic formations are not mind. They're something different than the mind. They're karma. And then you have mind that's imbued with those karmic imprints and so forth. The first explanation is from a negative standpoint. What is the first explanation? That the word only rejects some other agent. From a negative standpoint. And the second from an affirmative perspective. So what's the second? The first is that the word only rejects some other agent. And the statement of how all 12 links are dependent on one factor, the mind. The sutra demonstrates how the term only indicates the mind to be primary. So that's the second affirmative perspective. In brief, it is the mind that is the primary cause of the activity of sentient beings, and factors other than the mind are not principal. They're the outer world and so forth. Therefore, the mind, not matter, is posited in the sutras as primary. Therefore, even though matter does exist and is indeed accepted, even in the Chittamatra, it has no status of a creator of beings like the mind is imbued with, that the mind is the creator of the outer world through collective karma and the inner experience, your own vessel world experience of your own individual experience in the world. That's all created by your mind, by the minds of sentient beings. So what is being denied or negated is a creator that is other than the mind. It is not that external matter is being negated. Okay. That making sense? What does it say here? What was just before that? Hells and higher realms. So I think Venerable Joan translates. Let's see if I can get this same place. Even though form is posited to exist, that form, as does mind, does not exist as the very creator of migrating beings. Hence, a creator that is other than the mind is rejected. That is, in other words, is refuted. We refute that there's a creator other than the mind. External form is not refuted. It's only being refuted as the creator. Then in Thupten Jinpa's translation, continuing, some schools such as the Samkhya, remember we talked about the Samkhya when we talked about creation from self, when we talked about the four kinds, things that phenomena are created from themselves, from other, from both, or from causeless. We're still on refuting production from other, but earlier we refuted the Samkhya view. Some schools, such as the Samkhya, assert primal substance to be the creator, while some Buddhists assert the mind to be such an agent, that the mind is the creator. Well, that's what we're saying. It sounds like that's what we're saying, but when those Buddhists who assert the mind to be creator, they're assuming an inherently existent mind to be the creator, which would be impossible from the Prasangika point of view. In that matter is not the agent. Paul, is that sentence missing a word? In that matter. Oh, in that, as
in that,
yeah. I see. Not in that matter. In that, matter is not the agent. There is no dispute. Okay, matter is not the creator of the world. Fundamentally, it's a cooperative condition. So when examining things such as primal substance that others, such as the Samkhyas, suspect or conceive to be the agent, the mind alone, which is observed to have the characteristic of an agent in the conventional sense, is spoken of as the agent to eliminate such things as primal substance, which actually do not possess the characteristic of being an agent, that is, a creator of the world. When the mind is thus spoken of as the agent, primal substance and the like are refuted, are eliminated, are abandoned. So so we're still talking about the intent of why the Buddha talked about chittamatra. So various reasons here. As a stepping stone for some people whose minds were not able to understand the deeper meaning, but his ulterior motive was to refute that there are other creators other than the mind, such as matter and so forth. So one could say that primal substance and so on have been expelled, and that the disputed territory has been conquered. Say, for instance, two kings are competing to rule the same region. Oh boy, does this sound like the world today? Trump and Khomeini or whatever. So if two kings are competing to rule the same region, if one loses and is expelled, but happens to find his own land, and the implication is that he can rule elsewhere, then because they both found what they need, ordinary people will not suffer harm. Similarly here too, since both matter and mind are needed, and furthermore, since there is no harm in accepting matter, we should conclude that matter too does exist. Now that's a kind of a tricky kind of statement there. What does that mean? Because then there's sort of making some analogy here between mind and matter, talking about two kings fighting over the same domain. Maybe what would that domain mean? Being the creator. And one of them is expelled. It doesn't mean that that the other one can't find a refuge and not harm sentient beings. So that means that matter can still exist. There's no harm in accepting matter. We should therefore conclude that matter too does exist. What do you think of that? Kind of interesting, huh? So let me read from Venerable Joan. Therefore, when due to seeing that it has the capacity to be a creator in the conventional sense, Mind only is said to be the creator, or you could say mind alone is said to be the creator. The general principle, or what? How does Jimpa translate here? The primal substance principle. The general principle and so forth are eliminated as being the creator. Then it is suitable to say the object of the source of the argument, which is the object expelled, the general principle, the primal substance, and so forth, is suppressed. It's reasonable to say that. That is, it's suppressed because it is like having expelled one rival from among two kings wishing to rule a single country. The expeller wins his own country, and the ordinary beings are not harmed because they are indispensable to both. Similarly, also here, since form is not harmed because of being indispensable to both. So even though we've, sort of say, expelled form as being the creator, that doesn't mean that it's not beneficial, that it's still indispensable. So from the Chittamatra point of view, they do accept the existence of matter, but with the proviso that it is the matter that we perceive is actually the nature of the mind. So that's something for... Did Venerable Shankar disappear? I think he disappeared. So I was going to say that's something, because he had said before that he thought that Chittamatrans, or someone said that Chittamatrans, or was it Suvash? Suvash, did you say Chittamatrans did not accept matter? So that here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying the Chittamatrans do accept matter. Okay, so let's just read this next section and just get a little bit into it, and we'll continue from here next time. So the next outline, how external reality and the internal mind are equivalent, are equal with respect to existence or non-existence. So in the Tibetan, it just says Nipani. So the second, you have to go back to find out what the title of the outline is, which Jimpa has kindly put here. And he's put these two, a verse and a half here, 691 and the first two lines of 692. So he's saying, while remaining within the truth of the everyday world, so that would mean within the sphere of conventional reality, right? All five aggregates known to the world do exist, right? From conventional to in conventional truth, the five aggregates, the form aggregate, which includes the vessel world, and the other four aggregates, which are exclusive to sentient beings, those are mental, all of those do exist. When we speak of the arising of the gnosis of suchness, when we talk about generating the wisdom that realizes emptiness, then for the yogi, these five aggregates will be no more. Now that makes sense, right? When you have a direct realization of emptiness, there is no form, there is no there is no eye, there is no ear, there is no nose, and there is no form, there is no feeling, there is no so forth and so on. So as such as in the Heart Sutra. So for the yogi that has realized suchness, emptiness, those five aggregates will be no more. Then the second half stanza, so if there is no matter, if there were to be no matter, do not hold that there is mind. So this is an admonition to the Chittamatra, or to people who misinterpret the Chittamatra, the saying that Chittamatra says there's no matter. If there were no matter, you shouldn't hold that there is mind. And if there is mind, do not hold that there is no matter. Oh, interesting. So Venerable Joan translated this as, for those abiding in the reality of worldly beings, the aggregates renowned in the world, that is, all five, exist when wishing to manifest the exalted wisdom of suchness. Those five do not arise for yogis. What does she mean by wishing here? Oh, I didn't put the Tibetan into that verse, so I'm not sure what she's talking about there. So then the second two lines after that stanza, the first two lines of 692 say, in Venerable Joan's translation, if forms do not exist, do not conceive minds to exist. Right? So Jimpa said, if there's no matter, if there's no form, do not hold there is mind. If forms do not exist, do not conceive minds to exist. Also, if minds exist, do not conceive forms to not exist. So they have an equivalent kind of existence or non-existence. That's the point here. So I'll just read the first part of the commentary, and this is where we'll start again next time. Thus, just as explained above, while remaining within the truth of the everyday world, so that means within the realm of conventional truth, which the everyday world is what's talked about here. Within that truth, external realities such as the aggregates are known to the world, are renowned to the world. Thus, all five aggregates do exist, including the form aggregate or matter. However, when we speak of the arising of the gnosis directly perceiving suchness, the wisdom that directly realizes emptiness, then for the yogi who is in such meditative equipoise, within his own perspective, these five aggregates, such as form, will be no more. Right? So in the perspective of that yogi, remember when we talk about the Buddhas, we say that from the perspective of the Buddha's mind, realizing the ultimate, and from the perspective of the Buddha's mind, realizing the varieties of phenomena. So the yogi in meditative equipoise only has one of those. It's the perspective realizing emptiness. In that perspective, there is no form. So for the yogi who is in such meditative equipoise, within his own perspective, these five aggregates, such as form, will be no more. Okay. What do you think? Anyone have questions? This is where we'll start next time. How external reality and the internal mind are equal with respect to the existence or non-existence. Yeah, Jeremy.
Just on that last verse, or the last paragraph, where it's saying that for the yogi the forms will be no more. Why doesn't it say that they're not appearing to the yogi at that time, rather than saying that they are not existent at that time?
Yeah, well, to exist, they would have to be perceived, right? So in that meditative equipoise on emptiness, there's no appearance of any objects. So for that yogi, the forms do not exist. No? Think out loud.
Yeah, it just seems to be going a bit too far to say that they don't exist at that time, rather than saying they're not appearing.
They don't exist for the yogi. It says, then for that yogi who is in meditative equipoise within his own perspective. So you could put that phrase at the end. Within the perspective of the yogi in meditative equipoise, these forms do not exist. The same thing that we say in the Heart Sutra. There is no I, there is no ear, there is no nose, there is no tongue, there is no body, there is no mind. There is no form aggregate, there is no feeling aggregate, all of these different things. They don't exist within the sphere of emptiness.
I think it might be just the English, because I think the Tibetan says chung mi gyur, they do not arise. And I think the Sanskrit, similarly, something like that, naeva jataha, they are not produced, or they do not.
How do you have oh, you have the Sanskrit of the verse.
Right,
Not the
exactly.
commentary. Yeah. So so yeah, where is
Yeah,
it?
so I think it's
Yes,
yeah, I think
Joan
Char
Namshak Shakbala De Ngor Pungpo De Nga Jungwa Miguro. They will not it will not arise, or as Jimpa translates it, they will be no more. So yeah, Venerable
yeah.
Joan, did she translate that more appropriately there? So those five
Hmm.
aggregates do not arise for the yogis. That is, they do not arise in the perspective of their meditative equipoise. Okay, so yeah, so Jeremy, does that Paul's clarification, does that help a little?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it just means for them, they don't occur, they don't arise, they don't exist. Okay, before we dedicate, anyone have anything they'd like to share or get off their shoulders?
I mean, I think this understanding seems to parallel some of the quantum field theory,
Oh,
because what
quantum.
we call matter are actually, according to this theory, is just these perpetration or perturbances of fields that are interacting with one another. And
Quantum mechanics.
so it's more like the description sounds like what we use in Buddhism, where they say like a wave in the ocean can be distinguished from the ocean, but it's still the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's many kind of interesting avenues to an.
But it's more like a process. It's not these individual things that we're trying to individualize are part of a process that's constantly changing.
So the way I look at it, just in summary, I've mentioned before some kind of synthesis of looking at dependent origination and so forth. So when we talk about the sphere of emptiness and the sphere of the variety of phenomena, the sphere of the variety of phenomena include uh, the vessel world and the inhabitants. It even includes our conceptual understanding of emptiness, but the sphere of emptiness means just the exact experience of that. So the dependent arising doesn't have a particular appearance. The appearance of to you as a sentient being, whether you be a human or an animal or predator or whatever, the appearance to you of the vessel world that you perceive that you're born into depends on your individual status. There is a collective appearance of that dependent arising due to the collective karma of sentient beings. If the Buddha perceives that dependent arising, there is no particular appearance of it. It doesn't, from its own side, have an appearance. But by depending upon the minds of sentient beings who perceive, due to their own karma, the various appearances of the world, the Buddha is able to know those, how sentient beings are deluded by that, and develops, has a continuing compassion for them that we can kind of have also for sentient beings when we see how they so misconstrue the world, like the politicians today and so forth. We have to be able to take this extraordinary opportunity this unparalleled opportunity, if you think in sort of materialistic terms. It's a deal you can't turn down. It's an unparalleled opportunity to be able to, in this time, to develop compassion for these individuals that are creating mayhem, and they themselves are suffering. They're suffering not only, what they think is happiness, that's actually changeable suffering, but there's all sorts of, they can't sleep at night, they're in fear of losing their jobs or being impeached when the Congress changes or whatever. There are all sorts of sufferings that these beings are experiencing. So this is an unparalleled, extraordinary opportunity for us to divert, to, stand back from the world in our ordinary apprehension of it, feeling glad when our enemies are harmed, and feeling angry or sad when our side loses or is harmed in some way. Okay. So let's put up the dedication prayers, Louise. So we tried to set a motivation at the beginning, bodhicitta motivation. So we've created, even by the power of just the words, even if you didn't have any motivation, we've created some virtuous karma. And we've created some collection of merit, a collection of wisdom also, by the way, due to these virtues. So both virtuous karma and collection of wisdom are virtuous. Due to these virtues, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all migrators without exception. Actually, the word all doesn't count. Lead migrators without exception, not leading just some that we like to enlightenment, but also those that we don't like into that enlightened state due to these merits, due to these virtues. May the supreme precious bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has not yet arisen and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. And then for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's quick recognition, peerless teacher and assembly of children of the victorious ones, Shravakas, Pratika Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, together with your lineages. All objects of refuge of the infinite realms, please bestow here and now the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In upholding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, I make requests. Sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for the welfare of the victorious one's teachings and for the welfare of mother living beings, you suddenly passed away, departed to peace, took the aspect of achieving parinirvana, at which time I lost hope. At this I lost hope. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truths, plural, of the oceanic blessings of the three jewels. So there are blessings, oceanic-like, of the triple gem. By the power of that truth, by the power of the truth of the great waves, that means the conventional activities of the six perfections of due to the bodhicitta, the mind generation of the children of the victorious ones, due to these truths, calling on the power of truth, may the smile of a new reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for us fortunate disciples. And finally, for all our primordial gurus, present gurus, future gurus, you who are my eyes for viewing all the infinite scriptures, supreme gateways for the fortunate ones traveling to liberation, engaging skillfully, moved by mercy, illuminating spiritual friends, I request you, please live long and stable lives. So not just long, but also stable, without sickness and so forth and so on. Okay, thank you. Yeah, any last questions? We will on Monday, those of you who have time to join, we can talk about this PDF that handed out today with the evolution of the universe with the Black Mountain boundary. Suvash, will you be there on Monday? Can you come? Yeah, so we'll talk. You were concerned. Sean is also concerned what that Black Mountain is. So look forward to seeing you next Saturday, if not before on Monday. Try to use this unparalleled opportunity to meditate on compassion and emptiness. Also, the other is unparalleled opportunity because when things look so grim outside in the world, when fighting looks like it's getting more and the whole economy is going into the basket, to meditate also on emptiness. The two bodhicittas, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. This is all within the sphere of emptiness. All of this doesn't really exist the way that it appears. So to calm your mind that way. Okay, look forward to seeing you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Venerable
Venerable
George.
George.
Bye.
Thank